Okay, welcome to Wild Women. And today we have a special guest. So, Cynthia is a registered dietitian who specializes in helping women recover their menstrual cycles. So, Cynthia, can you explain what was your motivation to become this type of nutritionist?
Yeah, sure. And ladies, I just want to thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very passionate about spreading this message. And to answer your question, my motivation behind it is because I used to be that woman that did not have a menstrual cycle and that was searching around for answers from doctor to doctor, Googling, etc., to say, okay, my missing period, like why is it? Because the doctors would just put me on birth control or tell me come back when I'm ready to have babies because we'll do fertility treatment. They could never tell me why it was missing. And so I struggled for years trying to find answers. And then finally, when I did, that was, gosh, I'm trying to think how many years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, I said, well, I've spent so much time searching, I don't want to wait any longer to try to get pregnant. So even though I finally found my answer, I was impatient to get pregnant and trust the process of letting my body get its menstrual cycle back naturally. So yeah, the motivation really is to help other women so they don't have to waste years like I did, that they can get the answers that they need so they can move forward in their life. And not only that, the menstrual cycles that I help restore are typically in women that have if you want to say strict or very regimented relationship with exercise and with food. So whether it's counting calories, macros, being on the latest diet, being super healthy or known as the fit girl, that was also me. And so helping them figure out that not only can they get a natural period menstrual cycle back by eating enough and resting enough, but they can also start to live a more free life around exercise and food in their bodies.
That's awesome. What is your favorite aspect of your career of helping women?
Oh gosh, I want to say my favorite is that they change their lives. They start to have this newfound relationship and balance with food and exercise into where they're able to just live again. They're able to enjoy time with friends, enjoy time with family, find love, explore different career opportunities, move to different countries, like just living their life. So that is my favorite. Yes, I love helping them get their period back, but I always tell my clients, if we work on breaking these food rules, healing body image and all these underlying reasons of why your period went missing in the first place, your period is just going to be the bonus. It's going to come back if we work on these things. So I would say yes, the period. And it also, makes my heart explode when women are able to conceive, because a good amount of the women I work with do want to conceive. So that's always really amazing too, being able to help another woman create a life.
And beside fertility, why is having your period so important to a woman's health?
Oh, this is a great question. And I often get questions on my Instagram saying, well, who wants a period anyways? Or, it's just a pain in the butt or whatever. And I totally understand. Yes, while periods tend to be, I guess, a pain in the butt, it's your fifth vital sign. And meaning, if you don't have that, something's wrong. And so if you're missing your period, you could be putting yourself at risk for osteoporosis. You can put yourself at risk for heart disease. You can put yourself at risk for cognitive disorders. And like you said, fertility issues as well. And maybe you're at the age where you're like, well, I'm not going to have babies for, however long. And, it's about your bone health. So those women that are super young, maybe they're athletic or they're participating in, distance running that have no periods, and distance running is your thing and you want to maybe go to the Olympics. Well, if you're not fueling your body appropriately and getting your period, you're not going to grow appropriately. You're not going to have the strength and the bone capacity to do that later on in life. So, those are just a few things. And not to mention, most of the time, women lose their menstrual cycles. And again, this is most of the time, not always, because there's a lot of athletes out there that maybe have a good relationship with food in their body, but most of us have lost our periods because we fear food, or we are on a certain diet and we're letting external forces control what we should do to our bodies. That alone is like a mental mind F. And from so many, my clients will say, oh, I can't believe like I used to think about food 24/7, or what I was going to eat, or how many macros I put in, or whatever. I have so much more space in my mind to do all these other things. So you'll get that mental capacity back too, to enjoy your life. And aside from the health disparities, enjoying life is definitely on the top of my list.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So before I ask this question, I have to compliment you on your Instagram. Oh my goodness, it is so entertaining. And that's actually like how I found you. I came across you on like a search or something. And I just started watching your videos, and they're so much fun. They're hilarious. I was literally laughing out loud during some of them. Like, oh, I love it. But yeah, and on your Instagram, you did mention being a non-diet dietitian. Can you explain what that means a little bit?
Absolutely, Sarah. And thank you for the compliment. I was just talking to a client, and I had asked her, and I asked many of my clients, I'm like, what has interested you to book a call? And she's like, oh my gosh, your bubbly personality. And I'm like, oh, it's such a compliment, because I do have a lot of fun. And to tell you the truth, Sarah, my Instagram, I started the account, oh my gosh, a little bit before the global pandemic hit in January 2020. And so I always, was like, I want to grow this, online community and really help women that maybe won't be able to afford to work with me, or, don't have the capacity right away. So I'm so happy that you not only find them helpful, but also entertaining, because period recovery is hard work. Mm-hmm. And we gotta bring a little bit of humor to this. So, and in regards to your question, the non-diet dietitian or anti-diet dietitian, so that I'll explain. I've gone to college for 5 years. Actually, I'm going on 11 years as a registered dietitian in October. And what we have to do is go through 4 years to get a bachelor's degree. And then now dietitians actually have to go for their master's degree. Back when I graduated with my master's degree, we didn't have to. And so they make you do a dietetic internship, which is like 1,200 supervised practice hours, many different rotations in the dietitian field. And so as dietitians, we are taught in college very diet-like things. So for example, calories in versus calories out, exercise every day. You must, eat lots of fruits and vegetables to be healthy. You have to be a certain weight or certain BMI. So that's all caught up in diet culture. Mm-hmm. So it was about halfway, a little bit less, or about halfway through my career as a dietitian, I was like, this just seems all wrong, to put people on diets, to make them control and restrict, to make them worry, to make them always question themselves and their bodies. And so I started to do some research, and I can't remember the first, her name was, trying to think of my first dietitian that I found that was anti-diet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is a thing, because I always felt it like in my bones that it was just something wrong about me telling people to diet and lose weight and stuff like that. So I said, oh my gosh, this is a thing. I can practice and preach intuitive eating and preach that you can be healthy at any size. And so, the term anti-diet dietitian or non-diet dietitian is in fact a dietitian who practices belief that all food can fit. Intuitive eating is a strong, principles of mine once women start to restore their menstrual cycles, and really to help women and men too, because men struggle too with body image and stuff like that. But that this diet culture, these messages of this diet, that diet, or you must lose weight, or the newest craze, Noom, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. All those things are just a crock of what. And here's the thing, the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And diets have, I can't remember the percentage of fail rate, but it's a great business to be in if you want to make money.
It's like
Uh,
90%, right?
yeah, something somewhere around there. It's a great business if you want to make money and, ruin people's lives, because
Mm.
so many women and men are caught up into external forces driving what they should eat or how they should exercise. So yeah, and I know that was a long drawn out answer, but a non-diet dietitian or anti-diet is one who practices health at every size, one which is also a movement by Linda Bacon, and one that intuitively eats, intuitively exercises, and enjoys life despite what the outside world of diet culture tells us to do.
I love it. So you mentioned a little bit on your Instagram how at every size, and then you just talked about intuitive eating. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what those things are?
Yeah, so health at every size is actually, do I have my book up here? Yes, Linda Bacon wrote Health at Every Size, and it's a set of principles, and it really goes into deeply how diets are not appropriate. They don't work, that we need to get into the behavior behind, what's going on with the food choices, or what's going on with, weight, and what's going on, before we treat, I guess, the other things. Also, too, it's a movement that helps lots of people realize that our healthcare system is very weight centric.
Mm-hmm.
And this weight centric approach is driving lots of people into disordered eating or eating disorders, or just setting themselves up to die and fail over again and just have really bad morale. So there are a bunch of principles in there, and the book is Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon. And so I recommend to check that out. But it's really a health at every size approach, meaning if you are 200 pounds, if you are, 110 pounds, that it focuses on you as an individual and not the outside of you. So, and then intuitive eating is a framework based on principles, and there's 10 principles. And this is Evelyn Tribole and Elise Retch, and I hope I'm not butchering how to say their last name, but this approach gives that particular person the ability to start to learn to be intuitive again. And what I mean by that is, think of a toddler or a baby that they eat when they're hungry, they stop when they're full, and they move on. But that is a very small picture of the intuitive eating puzzle. It's based on healing your relationship with food, that no foods are good or bad, exercise, intuitive relationship with exercise, meaning, you're not punishing your body, or you're not exercising because you just ate a piece of cake, and to really honor your hunger and fullness. And that is a set of principles I use with many of my clients post-period recovery, because many of the women, when they come to me, their hunger and fullness cues and relationship with food is completely backwards, twisted, whatever you want to say. And the primary goal when women start working with me is that we need to get them the appropriate amount of food so they can start cycling again. So then that's the first step. And then future cycles, we can start to work on more of an intuitive eating basis when it comes to the hunger and fullness. But in the meantime, we can work on all the other principles about breaking food rules and focusing on that food is nor good nor bad, and that food is fuel. So
that's awesome. And those are principles that I use a lot in my personal and my business life as well. And the things that I always get bad is people commenting like, well, what about the obesity epidemic? What about the BMI? What about being overweight? Like, it's bad for your health. As you can see, I get a little bit passionate about this. What would be your argument to that?
My argument would be that our world is controlled by diet culture and by a multi-billion-dollar diet industry. And so, of course, if we market it and make people feel bad about themselves, that's only going to drive them to do this diet or do that diet and just have an overall bad relationship with food. And it's just like a vicious cycle. And as far as weight being, you go to the doctors and maybe you're like, oh, I need a knee replacement. And the doctor will say, okay, you need to lose weight. You're this in obesity scale. And then that person leaves the doctor's office and is feeling horrible about themselves. And they decide to go on a diet, and the diet, maybe it works for like a couple months and then they gain the weight back. And so this contributes to the overall problem in the first place. But many of our healthcare professionals aren't versed in anti-diet. And, my opinion around it, Camille, is that we're controlled by more than just the word obesity, but that I was just listening to a podcast. She called it diet culture is like a cult. And that everything is really middled into it all, from financial aspects of it and how much money these companies make, to now, our healthcare system is set up where if you are this BMI, then, you're at this health risk. And to me, it's very discriminatory in that we have no idea what these individuals are dealing with on a deeper level with food, and that if we don't work on that, then it's never going to truly solve whatever problems are happening. And not to mention, a woman or man that is severely underweight is sometimes more quote unquote unhealthy than someone that is quote unquote 50 pounds overweight. So it's, again, goes back to that weight centric care. And I'm hoping all of us anti-dieters can, hopefully spread the message and change the world one day. So I know there was not any clear-cut answer, but just more opinions than anything.
And talking about like BMI, because I've seen a post on your Instagram as well on that, and I totally agree. So what's wrong with BMI?
Oh gosh. So BMI, it is, I can't remember the guy's name, but he made BMI as a measurement tool. I think he was an astronomer. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
I just posted about it, but pretty much it's like a measurement tool that does not take into consideration lifestyle, doesn't take into consideration family history. So, those things too, when, I talk to women that are like, oh, how much weight am I going to have to gain? And, I can never say you're going to have to gain X. But I also talk to them about, what's your family history? Are your family on the petite side? Are they, on the more, taller, bigger frame size? And so that helps determine, like, what is normal for you? And BMI is something, again, attached to diet culture and attached to our medical system that really invalidates our health as a whole. So, and it also doesn't take into consideration muscle mass. And now here you have, we'll just say, an athlete that has tons of muscle mass and their BMI is quote unquote overweight. That may drive that athlete to underfuel and now underperform based on this silly scale. So yeah, there's lots attached to it, but ladies, and if there's any gentlemen listening that do not pay attention to your BMI. Now, if you have a super, super low BMI, like I'm talking maybe lower than like 19, 18, then, that is where I can say, oh, we probably have to work on, increasing that BMI. And some may say, well, you're contraindicating yourself. You're saying it's a crock of whatever, but now you're using that. And yes, I can say that is for medical purposes, and being underweight is, research has shown that it is 100% attached to lots of health disparities, more so than even being in the overweight or obese BMI.
For sure. Yeah, I remember when I was in treatment for my eating disorder, I worked with an anti-diet nutritionist too. And obviously I had like my therapist and stuff as well, and my pediatrician too. I remember her coming up with my goal weight. And I was like, and of course, me being a teenager with an eating disorder, I look it up right away in my BMI chart. And it's like, oh, well, like if I get to this weight, then I'll be almost overweight. And she's like, no, like we've done your medical history, we've done the research, and your height and weight at this time should be this. Your BMI doesn't matter, you know, this is
Yeah.
your progression. This is where you should be. This is healthy for you. And yeah, I find it crazy how there's still so many doctors who do refer to that BMI chart, even though there is so much research done on the fact that it's just not accurate, right?
No, and what's even more disheartening lately, I'm seeing posts on how children, and I'm not sure where this is occurring, I haven't had time to really look into it or research it, but children are being weighed in school.
Yeah.
Like, way to kick off an eating disorder real young. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I can't be totally frustrated because I don't know if whoever is putting this in place knows the detrimental effects that it is having on these children.
Mhm.
So, but I guess we can save that for a later topic.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the link between nutrition, exercise, and menstruation?
Yes, I would love to. So I just want to first kind of back up a second to what is considered normal in our world, I guess, sort of say. So norm is you must exercise daily, you must be fit, you must be X BMI or X weight, you must have a flat stomach. And for those conceiving or pregnant, you must have a belly only pregnancy. The list goes on, right? So all this stuff is completely normalized, which makes it normal, right? Even though it's really not. So that's where it kind of starts, right? So we're exercising every day, we're eating super healthy, we're following, you know, the what I eat in a day videos, which please, if you are following these videos, ladies that are listening, they don't know you, they don't know what you're struggling with, they don't know how much your body needs, etc. So, you know, so we're following all these external forces and listening to what society deems as healthy. And here we are, maybe flash forward, we don't know that our period's missing because maybe we were put on the pill at a young age for whatever reason, maybe heavy periods, something like that. And I'm just using a story to kind of play out the scenario, but so then we go to the doctor, maybe we're married or thinking about getting married, and we want to come off the pill and we don't have a period. And we're like, oh, okay, well, my doctor says it's fine. I'll just go back on the pill. And so then finally we figure out that I am not eating enough and I'm not resting enough. So what happens is when our body is not getting enough fuel and we're outputting too much energy, such as exercise, our hypothalamus is signaled because our stress hormones live there, our sex hormones live there, our appetite control is there. And so the hypothalamus is signaled saying it is not safe around here. Like things are looking scarce. Like we're in survival mode. There's not enough food around here. I'm being chased by lions every day. And when I say chased by lions, your body, like, you know, you're going for a run, but your body, the stress mechanisms and survival mechanisms it has, it looks at it like I'm being chased by a lion, I'm being chased by a bear. So your body thinks it's in like straight up like survival mode. So then your stress hormones kick in and your adrenaline's pumping, fight or flight mode, cortisol, all that. And so this is all signaling to the brain, like, it is not safe around here. We must shut down reproductive hormones immediately, because why would I have this human carry a baby when things are not looking up? And for those listening, well, I don't want to carry a baby. And I mentioned all the health disparities that come along with this in the beginning. So, you know, and here we are, we're like, okay, but this just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm supposed to exercise every day. I'm supposed to eat really healthy. And why is my period missing? So it all comes down to how smart our human body is in helping us survive, right? If we were, just think of yourself out in the wilderness, you really had no food and you're really being chased by lions. It is going to do everything it can to protect and conserve energy.
Mhm.
And that means I don't have energy to hold on to a baby, and I need to keep my stress hormones up, my adrenaline and my cortisol. So just in case I get really chased down, or, you know, something attacks me, whatever. So here we have these stress hormones going, and lots of women will say, you know, I have so much energy, like I would totally feel it if I wasn't eating enough, or I'd be totally losing weight. And our body is smart. That cortisol, that adrenaline is going to keep your energy levels up because your body needs to look out. And as far as it goes for, the fight or flight mode, like I said, your body thinks it is in danger. So how do we overcome all this? And that's where, those two are related. And the way we bring back a menstrual cycle is by eating more, by resting enough, by going against all these things that you thought were normal, like exercising every day, like eating 1,500 calories. And, I can speak on this personally because I was one of those women. I was the girl that had to be healthy, that had to be fit. I was trying to get the flat stomach and all that. And when I finally was appropriately diagnosed, I said, no way. I was like, exercise is good for me. No, I can't be doing too much exercise. And I'm eating, for what a 5'1" female needs to eat. And yeah, no, that's 100. None of that is true. You can exercise too much and you can be too healthy in your eating and thus missing your period. Now, women may say, well, I only eat 1,500 calories and I exercise every day, but I still have a period. And so here's the thing. It could be A matter of time before you lose your period, or B, your genetics are strong in the fact that it, is keeping your sex hormones going, but it doesn't mean that there isn't an underlying problem with your fixation on food and exercise obsession and stuff like that. So that's important to note too. And just because you are still getting a menstrual cycle doesn't mean that your body is truly healthy, because there could be things that we're not able to see on a seeing level. It could be happening at a cellular level, stuff like that. So my long drawn out answer in a nutshell, our body's innate ability to keep us alive and help us survive through times of famine and times of danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that answer because I always tell people like the stress of dieting has so much more health problems and like actually like whatever your doctor tells you about your weight.
Yes.
And
yep.
Talking about that, I love how you debunk diet food and explain like why eating nutritious meals is important on your Instagram. So can you tell us like a little bit more about like what are the most common fears people have around food and why it's important to reintroduce them into your diet?
All right. And food specifically, or just maybe like silly rules like, oh, I can't eat past this time, or I already ate
that too.
That. Yeah, those two. So the treatment to get your period back is enough food and enough rest. So again, this is going against societal norm, which isn't normal, which makes it harder for a lot of women to do. And that's why I recommend, if you are struggling with this, definitely seek support. So you're eating more, which means chances are before you were eating lots of vegetables, you were eating very, what I call volumistic, where you're getting as much food on your plate for as least amount of calories. So now you're in essence sort of relearning how to eat. So now we need to focus on higher calorie foods like that, maybe butter, cheese, ice cream, and higher carbohydrate foods. So yes, eat those sweet potatoes. Yes, that donut is okay. And putting, I don't want to say less emphasis on protein, but putting more emphasis on the carbs and the fats, because most of us come from a place where it's protein, as much protein as you can get. And so protein, depending on what form it's coming from, so maybe it's like a protein shake, which you might get 100 calories to the protein shake, even though you're getting tons of protein. So it doesn't have enough fuel, aka calories, in there. So now we're kind of, again, doing the opposite of what we did before. And so that's very difficult, because you may see your friend, Sally, she's next to you eating this big salad with all these vegetables. And here you are with, your turkey sandwich and chips and maybe a smoothie or something like that. So it makes it a bit difficult to go against what, again, is supposed to be normal. But your normal, if you are missing your period, is much emphasis on carbs and fats and some protein. And, if your girlfriends ask you to go out on a Friday night for pizza and a drink, that will bring you closer to period recovery. So, it's little things, rules like that. Oh, I already had pizza this week. I can't have pizza again. Well, do you want the pizza? Like, is it going to bring you closer to period recovery? Then yes, eat the pizza. I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, I just ate. I can't possibly be hungry. And girl, if your period is missing, you need food. And the more you deny your body of that hunger, the longer this whole process is going to take. And, think of it this way. Say you drank some water, you drank a lot of water today, and you had to go pee. And so 15 minutes later, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to pee again. Do you question that? Probably not. You might be like, oh, I got to pee again. I got to stop what I'm doing. But you don't question it. You don't label it. You just eventually go pee. Now, if you just ate and you're hungry again 15 minutes later, you would question that and be like, how could I possibly be hungry? I can't. Like, I just ate. And here's the thing. Yes, you can. You 100% can. And the more you honor that hunger, the closer you're going to get to period recovery, and the closer you're going to have this balanced relationship with food, and one day be able to just rely on your body alone to tell you what it needs. So I'm trying to think of another one, eating, timed eating. I can only have my breakfast at this time, my snacks at this time, my, whatever at this time, and disregards all senses of hunger. And I was guilty of that at one point too. I remember I used to work as a clinical dietitian in the hospital. I had breakfast. I can't remember at what time. I actually just made a post on it. I think it was yesterday. And today is June 29th. So for those of you that might be listening in the future, it's around the 28th. So I used to have time snacks. So even if I was hungry, no, you cannot eat until, it's 10 o'clock. And here's the thing, your body doesn't have this, sometimes it does, it'll say, I'm hungry around this time. You might get hungry around the same time every day. But if you're hungry and it's not to the time you are supposed to eat, you need to eat. The more you do that, the more your body will say, oh, she's going to listen to me. Maybe things are looking up around here, and I can trust the fact that I'm going to get adequate fuel to function at an optimal level. So that, I'm sure I could spill 5 more hours of different foods and different, silly rules that we have for ourselves. And, I don't want to call anyone silly, and I'm not trying to, demean it, because I was there too. And at the end of the day, are they silly? Yes. But guess what? Again, this is all normalized silly behavior. So many people do this. So it makes it hard to see that it is, in fact, not helpful for your health.
Mm-hmm. And I hate how there's one diet that's super popular, and then people figure out, oh my God, this is actually bad for your health. Let's try a new one. It's still the same cycle.
Yeah, and it just seemed like so much work. Like, perfect example, I work in restaurants, and I had a table last night, and they were like, yeah, so we can't eat wheat, we can't eat dairy, we can't eat vinegar, we can't eat sugar. And I go to my chef and I was like, chef, can you come up with something? And he's like, no, can't be here. I was like, oh God, you can go talk to them, because I'm not telling them that they can't eat here. But yeah, no, that's just a side note to all that.
Yeah.
But it seems like 2,500 calories seems to be your threshold. That's what people have to eat to get their period back. How did you come up with that number?
So that number is based off Dr. Rinaldi of No Period Now What, her research. So she had done multiple peer-reviewed articles and came to a conclusion that 2,500 calories is the minimum. And the reason being is that, let's take into consideration all the food deprivation and restriction we've had in the past, times that onto whatever stress that has come about the body from maybe over exercising too much. So we have all this, if you want to say, damage done to the body outside of just the menstrual cycle. So things are happening at a cellular level, things are happening at a vascular level, etc. I won't get too sciencey here, but all this repair that you can't really see with the physical eye, AKA your period, you can see that, it's more so tangible. All this stuff you're not able to see. So this is giving your body not only the fuel that you need to restore your menstrual cycle, but also repair your body from the years of dieting and, stress and over exercising that you have done. And so have I seen women need more than 2,500? Yep, I sure have. Have I seen women get by on a little less? Yeah, I have. But the thing is to remember is that, yes, that tangible goal is, yes, we want our periods, but you also truly want to be healthy with your relationship with food, your relationship with exercise, and repair any bone damage that has occurred, any, cellular level damage that has occurred that we can't tangibly see. So my recommendation is that, women do follow that recommendation from Dr. Rinaldi of the 2,500 calories for optimal repair of the body and to get your menstrual cycle back.
I love how you really emphasize that that's like the minimum, because a lot of people are going to say like, oh, okay, that's my new goal. Like that's exactly what I have to follow. But your message is really like, you have to make sure that you follow what your body needs.
Yes. And I want to mention too, ladies, that don't try to fill your 2,500 calories with lots of vegetables and lots of quote unquote healthy foods. Because here's the thing, if we don't work on, all foods fit kind of mentality, and that no food is good nor bad, that you may land yourself back in the same place you started with a missing period, or just, not being able to live your life. Just think of this way. Your friend invites you to her 25th birthday party and you're like, oh, I can't eat the cake. I'm going to have to run after the cake. And what am I going to do? I had cake for my mom's birthday on Tuesday. Like all these things, this normal thought process that we think is normal is not. So imagine being able to be like, oh my gosh, it's Sally's 25th birthday party. I can't wait to celebrate with her. No thought of food or restriction or compensating with exercise. Oh, I had mom's birthday. Oh my gosh, I get to celebrate my mom's birthday. How amazing. And now that most of us are sort of like past, severe COVID lockdown, that we're able to see other humans and touch them and potentially hug them. And then we have the chains of diet culture just saying, oh my gosh, you're going to mom's and you're gonna eat cake, but you have a birthday party, and all these things running through your head. So it's much more than period recovery, is much more than just getting a period back, in my eyes anyways.
Yeah. And regarding that, and coming back to what Sarah said at the same time, for people that believe that they have food intolerances, but it's a disguise of every belief from diet cultures that they took on, how would you work with them on like actually finding out what their body loves to eat?
So that will take time. So first step would be, let's get the period back, because if we don't have a period, we're putting, heart health at risk, bone health at risk. So that would be step one. So let's flash forward, say we have multiple period recovery cycles. That's when we start to dabble into intuitive eating. And intuitive eating, it is really based upon satisfaction. So for example, if it's a really hot day out and you're like, oh, I don't want, mom's beef stew that she made. I want a nice cold salad. And that, we're looking at that towards that is going to satisfy me more than that. Same thing with in the future, because a lot of women will get the misconception that we're supposed to eat all this, sugary, quote unquote, junk food. And that's not the case. You can allow yourself to eat, quote unquote, sugary foods whenever you want, regardless if you're missing a period. But, flash forward to where, I really want a dessert. I don't feel like, I had ice cream earlier in the day. I really don't feel like ice cream again. Maybe some fresh fruit sounds good. So, I help women determine what satisfies them at that particular time. Because guess what? Now that you're cycling and you're having a regular period again, you may have higher needs for eating more during a certain time of your cycle, higher needs maybe at the start of your period, lack of appetite, around ovulation, so forth. So our bodies, not only do we start to cycle for menstruation, but we're cycling in sometimes our moods, we're cycling in our appetite levels, what sounds good to us based on the weather. I mean, I don't know about you ladies, in the summer heat, today it's going to be like 90 degrees Fahrenheit here. I don't want a hot beef stew. I want something refreshing and something light. And so again, I'm talking post-period recovery. So that's how I help them determine to trust what their body is trying to tell them what they need versus any kind of external forces. Because as we know, that didn't end up well in the first place. So does that help answer the question?
Yeah, and I think what you're also trying to say is that you need to slowly reintroduce certain things that you thought were off limit.
Oh, yes, the intolerance part. Yes. So I have many women say, oh my gosh, but I'm intolerant to this and I'm intolerant to that. And it's like, well, yeah, you might be because your body is so not used to eating bread. It's so not used to eating dairy because you cut all these things out. So I would say almost 10 out of 10 times, all those things resolve once we start eating more. And as far as the bloating goes, bloating can be related to you finally eating more, but it also can be related to under fueling as well, and those stress hormones pumping up the volume. But yeah, the intolerances, they magically somehow go away. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. Because a lot of people think that, like, oh, well, intuitive eating, I'll just eat junk food all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll never stop eating and I'll lose all control. But the reality is it's not like that. And I love that you really talked about like satisfying your body and listening to your hunger. Can you explain a little bit the difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating?
So there are different classifications, and off the top of my head, I can't remember like the actual guidelines, but disordered eating, so there's actually a spectrum of it. And Elena, Woman's Health Dietitian, that's her Instagram handle, she just had a really great post on the spectrum of eating disorders. And it kind of goes from like, okay, you have this normal relationship with food to, okay, you start restricting certain food groups and it turns into disordered eating, and then it's like full-blown eating disorder. And eating disorders can range from, completely having like little to no calories to a ton of calories. Someone that would be classified as obese, we have no idea. They can definitely too have an eating disorder. So I think eating disorders and disordered eating are definitely weight biased, where we think that if someone is super, super, super thin, they have an eating disorder that someone in a normal weight can't. But I would say, there's clinical diagnoses on what truly an eating disorder is. But if I had to, if I was working with a client, if someone came to me, because I do work with some eating disorders, and those are usually my private clients. But if anyone's lower than a BMI of 19, I don't want to say I won't work with them, but for me, virtually to keep up on what they need and, the attention that they really need to heal their eating disorder, a lot of times I will refer them out to an eating disorder specialist in their area that they can see in person. And so, BMI is something I'll take into consideration personally. And then also, how restrictive are their behaviors and what is their willingness to want to change. I've worked with, I think over the past, my past career, I've had to refer out only one woman to an eating disorder specialty place in her area, because sometimes it's hard to tell when we have our first initial conversation how severe things are. So, my classification really is certain BMI, but also the behaviors and the willingness to want to change. So yeah, so the clinical diagnosis, I would just, you could go to NEDA, National Eating Disorder Association, to get those clinical diagnoses. But I just shared a bit of how I kind of determine what is appropriate for me to see virtually.
The reason why I asked that is because a lot of people say, well, I don't have an eating disorder, so I'm fine. So I think that it's really important for people to realize that they could have like disordered eating without having an eating disorder.
Yes, absolutely. And guess what? That disordered eating could lead to the eating disorder. And also, again, I think I've said this probably a million times in our conversation in the past hour, but all this behavior, this disordered behavior, or even eating disorder behavior is so normalized. It is normalized. And again, going back to that weight-centric care, you go in. So for example, I had disordered eating. I 100% did. I go into the doctors, they're like, oh, your weight is fine, you eat healthy, you exercise, you're fine. And I actually made a post recently, and saying, has your doctor considered how much you're eating, how much you're exercising? And even then, sometimes doctors just don't, they don't have the, I don't want to say education, but they haven't learned about it. Just like me as a dietitian, I don't know everything about everything, right? I specialize in HA. So if you talk to me about diabetes, I might not be able to give you as much sound advice. So same thing with doctors. So I don't want you to get upset about your doctors because they only know what they know. But a good doctor will listen to you. A good doctor will listen to you and be open to suggestions of what you maybe heard on Instagram or from the period dietitian. So, going back to that is all these behaviors are extremely normalized, which makes it hard for us to know that we have a problem. And many women with an eating disorder sometimes will say, well, I'm not sick enough because I didn't lose my period, or I'm not sick enough because, I'm still at a normal weight, or I'm overweight. And the thing is, you can have an eating disorder or disordered eating, and it doesn't matter what body size, shape, or, background.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is like the best thing that we can do to like fight against this normalization? Like, is it through education? Like, is it through like societal awareness somehow? Like, how would you suggest that?
I would say social media is it's a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing because there are, individuals like ourselves out there advocating for more of an anti-diet world. But then there's, I feel like, more individuals out there that are advocating the opposite. So, power in numbers. And, if this hits home to you and you feel passionate about, truly being healthy, like mind, body, and spirit, then you need to share it. But here's the thing, you have to keep in mind that while education and sharing is helpful, we still sometimes won't change the views of other people. So I don't want you to get frustrated if you are trying to educate or you are trying to share. I have many clients of mine are like, oh my gosh, like I tried to talk to my mom about this and she, said whatever. And it's so frustrating. And, think of it this way, diet culture has been ingrained in us for centuries, thousands of years. The book Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison is a great book to learn more about dieting history, but we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that that's all they know, right? And that's maybe all you knew up until today or up until last month or last year. So, spreading the message when you can, but also not getting frustrated or giving up if you feel like your message isn't well received. That help answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah, because it is really frustrating when people are like completely shut down to it. But what you're saying is really important.
And you know what? I like to say nutrition is a lot like politics. Everyone has their views on it, and who you can talk to about politics and who you can't. Same thing with nutrition. Your friend Jennifer, maybe she's super open to hearing about whatever, but then your friend Sam is like so caught up in going to the gym and obsessed with getting her six pack that you're like, I'm not even gonna try. So, and all those individuals, hopefully when the time is right, they will come to forth to see how much more amazing life could be when you have a balanced relationship with food and exercise in your body. We can only hope that happens, and that some, unfortunately, some individuals will go their whole entire life without realizing that there's this freedom to life. So, which I am so thankful each and every day that I have found that, because the things that come up in life, say life events that are outside of, dieting and stuff like that, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to cope with them as easily as if I was like struggling with my body or what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to that, just being yourself and like you said, like following your own bliss for life is a great way to just inspire people to even look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what recommendations would you give to someone who's trying to get their period back?
My recommendation would be to set yourself some small goals. If you're doing this alone, and unfollow any social media that is causing you harm or disbelief or triggering you in any way, and follow women or accounts that lift you up, whether it be something inspirational or anti-diet accounts. But yes, set yourself small goals and start eating more. You know, it could just be maybe you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner now. Now you eat, you know, you add in snacks. Definitely, I would say get the book, No Period Now What. It just explains the background more in detail about, you know, hypothalamic amenorrhea, and gives a lot of hope and a lot of stories. But, you know, if you're not able to do this alone, which some women are, definitely get the support you need. And, you know, I'll share about more of my programs in a moment, but get the support that you need from whoever you feel fits for you. So there's other dietitians, you know, out there that help with missing periods, other practitioners out there, some doctors that know about it, but have some type of support system, because you have to think of it this way. You are going to start to learn this new language of eating more and resting more in a world that speaks a completely different language. So you will often find yourself questioning yourself, wondering if this process really works. And I can tell you, ladies, by eating enough for your body, which can vary from woman to woman, resting enough for your body, which can also vary, you will get your period back. And if you don't, then there is still a missing piece to the puzzle. And that's really my area of specialty, is helping women find those missing pieces of the puzzle. And 10 out of 10 times, it is food related or exercise related.
Yeah, for sure. So before we let you go, can you tell us a little bit about the programs you offer, where people can find you, what your social media handle is?
Yeah, so all of you guys can find me at period, and that's spelled PERIOD, .nutritionist on Instagram. I do a little bit of TikToking, but it's hard for me to keep up with all these social platforms and then make sure I'm keeping an eye on my clients. So that's where you can find me, and my website is attached there, contact info is attached there. And so what I offer right now is group coaching for women looking to get their menstrual cycles back. And those women range from, okay, I have a problem, what do I do, to I've tried period recovery for X amount of months and I'm having no success. And during those 12 weeks together in my program, we work on overcoming any existing, you know, food rules that you have, finding that missing piece of the puzzle to know that you have to do, maybe eat a little bit more, add another snack in to get your period back, all while working on healing body image at the same time. And then I've had women be very successful in that. Again, if you're eating enough for your body, you're resting enough for your body, you're going to get your period back. So group coaching is right now what I offer, and you get weekly calls, a very small, close-knit community of women going through the same exact thing. And they're such an amazing community of women. And I get to pinch myself every day that I get to have such close contact with these ladies. So yeah, so that's right now my offering, be changing in the future. And I'm not sure when this podcast is going to air, but I am taking some time off in July. So if this airs in the next few days, apply for coaching sooner than later.
Perfect. Thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
thank you, ladies.
This was awesome.
So thank you so much for coming on this podcast and talking with us about nutrition and everything anti-diet.
Yes, thank you, ladies, for having me. It is an absolute pleasure of mine to be able to spread this message, because I know, you know, if I had resources such as myself or No Period Now What, I would say I would have been in a different place sooner. Mm-hmm. But guess what? It all works out, and here I am today, and I couldn't picture myself as a dietitian doing anything else.
Love it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you again.